We are reading the Frog and Toad Treasury. We're in the first book, Frog and Toad Are Friends. And the third story, A Lost Button. Toad and Frog went on a long walk. They walked across a huge meadow, a large meadow. They walked in the woods. They walked along the river. At last, they went back home to Toad's house. "Oh, drat," said Toad. "Not only do my feet hurt, but I have lost one of the buttons on my jacket." "Don't worry," said Frog. "We will go back to all the places where we walked, and soon we will find your button." They walked back to the large meadow, and they began to look for the button in the tall grass. "Here's your button," cried Frog. "That's not my button," said Toad. "My button is black. That button is black. My button is white." Toad put the black button in his pocket. A sparrow flew down. "Excuse me," said the sparrow, "did you lose a button? I found this one." "That is not my button," said Toad. "That button has two holes. My button had 4 holes." Toad put the button with 2 holes in his pocket. They went back to the woods and looked on the dark paths. "Here's your button," said Frog. "That's not my button," said Toad. "That button is small. My button was big." Toad put the small button in his pocket. A raccoon came out from behind a tree. "I heard that you were looking for a button," he said. "Here's one that I just found." "That is not my button," said Toad. "That button is square. My button was round." Toad put the square button in his pocket. Frog and Toad went back to the river. They looked for the button in the mud. "Here's your button," said Frog. "That is not my button," shouted Toad. "That button is thin. My button was thick." Toad put the thin button in his pocket. He was very angry. He jumped up and down and screamed, "The whole world is covered with buttons, and not one of them is mine." Toad ran home and slammed the door. There on the floor, he saw his white, 4-holed, big, round, thick button. "Oh," said Toad, "it was here all the time. What a lot of trouble I've made for Frog." Toad took all the buttons out of his pocket. He took his sewing box down from the shelf. Toad sewed the buttons all over his jacket. The next day Toad gave the jacket to Frog. Frog thought that it was very beautiful. He put it on and jumped for joy. None of the buttons fell off. Toad had sewed them on very well.